And the founder is the Russian Tsar, Peter the Great. When he started constructing here, today it is difficult to imagine, but at that time it was really nothing around. The Neva River flowed through the marshes and woods, and that was it. And Peter started constructing the fortress first, but then the city grew around it, and in 1712, so the basic stone of the Peter and Paul's fortress was put on the 27th of May 1703. That is considered to be the birthday of the city. And in 1712, he transferred the capital here, because before that the capital was in Moscow, like today. But Peter thought that the capital must be closer to the borders, because Moscow is in the middle of the European part of Russia. It was a very long journey. At that time, the trip from St Petersburg to Moscow would take about 2 weeks. Well, because the only way to get there was by horses, you see, by carriages, through the roads, which was not very nice at that time. And you know, it was through the woods, and there were robbers in the woods, so not a very pleasant trip at that period. So, and he wanted the foreigners to come, Russia to communicate, to develop. So he transferred the capital here. Since then, St. Petersburg became the capital of Russia, and the capital was transferred back already after the revolution. In 1919, the Bolsheviks decided that it was dangerous to have the capital so close to the borders, and also that staying in Moscow, they would control Russia better. The place where we are now, we are crossing the Neva River, and this is the Basil Island. So where your hotel is located. This place originally was a port. This place originally was a port, and the ships would launch here. And these 2 columns Peter the Great ordered to construct as a monument to the victory over the Swedes. They are called Rostral Columns because the front part of the ship is called rostrum. And the columns are decorated with the rostrums, with the front parts of the Swedish ships. The 4 figures at the basement, you see at the basement of every column there are 2 figures, one male figure and one female figure. They symbolize 4 great Russian rivers, which were, at that time, they were considered to be Neva, Volga, Dnieper, and Volga. And all the buildings here were constructed for the needs of the front, of the port. For instance, this on the left is the stock exchange, the former stock exchange. Now it houses a Navy Museum. And the Neva has several sleeves here, so, and they form many islands. So another name of the city, sometimes we call it the Venice of the North, and that's because it lies astride 42 islands, has 64 rivers and canals, and more than 200 bridges. And that island is was strategically important part because it lies in the place where the delta of the Neva River narrows to one waterway. If you imagine a fleet coming, this was the point which they wouldn't be able to cross. You see? Angel on top of it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah? That is a weather vane. It has a very intricate mechanism which allows it to turn in the wind. This is the Artillery Museum. This is the oldest bridge in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
When the fortress was only constructed, it was made, but it was a drawbridge at that time. So it could be lifted in case of an assault.
So this bridge also had been lifted?
No, not anymore. But originally, there were no bridges across the Neva River yet, and you know, no palaces constructed, only the fortress. And this bridge was, of course, you know, like usually when there is a fortress, there is a drawbridge. They constructed the bastions. In the corners there are the pentagon bastions, so the soldiers could shoot from here and cover all this territory in front of the fortress. And secondly, there was the ravelin, which could enhance the fire, because there were guns standing on the ravelin, and the fortress wall is higher.
Okay.
So they would shoot over the ravelin, and the ravelin would also assist. Actually, the walls are up to 20 meters thick, but the heavens. But St. Peter, notice, St. Peter, by his prayers, managed to throw him back.
Okay.
So Simon the Magus fell down to the ground and broke to death.
Okay,
You
that's
see
it.
there? So there is St. Peter with the knob. And can you read the allegory?
No.
No? St. Peter, for Peter the First. Saint Simon the he's a contemporary sculptor, lives sometimes in the US, sometimes in when that tragedy with Alexis happened, when the son of Peter the Great died here, the cathedral was not yet constructed. So they buried him in the belfry, and there are 3 tombs that you can see here. Those are the tombs of Alexis, his wife, and one of the sisters of Peter the Great. Here. And if you read in some guidebooks, it is written that they buried him under the staircase so people would stamp his feet on him, and that is a lie. He was buried with honor, like a member of the royal family, and the only reason why he is here in the belfry is that the cathedral wasn't yet constructed at that time. Huh? Yes, it is all it is carved wood covered with gold leaf.
Okay.
So it is gilded.
Okay, gilded.
But still, it is real gold anyway, you see? Next to. You see? So that is the tomb of Peter the Great. And next to him is the tomb of his wife, Catherine the First. His second, his first wife was buried in Moscow. And this then empty stand, the tomb next to the vault, you see? And then Elizabeth. So this is Elizabeth, the daughter of Peter the Great. And then Peter the Third and Catherine the Great. Catherine the Second. So when Peter died, this cathedral wasn't completed yet either, but it was his will to be buried here. So
where was he buried then?
His body was put in a special chapel. His coffin was put in a special chapel and kind of waited for 6 years till the cathedral was completed. Then they transferred them here, and that started the tradition. Since then, all the Romanovs who ruled the country from St. Petersburg were buried here in this cathedral. It was governed by women.
Yes.
It was a very feministic country, really, because Peter the Great died in 1725.
Right.
Then it was
Catherine?
then it was Peter the Second, but it was just 2 years.
yeah.
Yes, it was Catherine the First,
the
3
wife-
years.
the wife took it.
If we list significant Tsars or Tsarina, it is Peter the Great, then Elizabeth, then Catherine the Great, and Catherine the Great died in 1796. So that is basically 3/4 of the 18th century, all women. And then the son of Catherine the Great, Paul, who didn't like his mother very much. Let's just let the others see. This way.
I feel shivering.
So that was the first Tsar buried here, right? And this is the last Tsar. Nicholas II.
Yes.
Okay.
So he was kept under house arrest after he signed the abdication in February, but the provisional government treated him nicely. And what they were planning to do was to find political asylum for him in some, related family, because they had a lot of relatives. And they didn't have time to do that, and then the revolution broke out, and the Bolsheviks had a different opinion. In their opinion, living, survival of the royal family was a threat, because they try to restore monarchy in Russia. And so they took them to Siberia, where they were secretly killed. In 1918 it happened, and it was done all secretly. So for one of the tomb, that is a tomb of an emperor or an empress. If it is just a plain tomb with a cross on it, it is a Grand Duke or a Grand Duchess, the member of the royal family. So this is that one is the tomb of Alexander III, the father of Nicholas II, and this is the tomb of his mother. So this is quite special because she survived the revolution, and she was a Danish princess.
Oh, she ran.
She originally was a Danish princess, came to Russia to marry the Russian Tsar.
Right.
And when the revolution happened, she was still alive and she migrated, went back to Denmark, and lived all the rest of her life there. And she died in the 30s.
In what year?
In 1933.
Oh, really?
Yes. It is very Italian-like, and so the church resembles a Catholic cathedral, but of course it is not. The official religion in Russia was Orthodox. So, of course, all the main churches constructed here were Orthodox churches. So it is just a matter of the design. Now, one of the necessary parts of the Orthodox Church is an iconostasis. Iconostasis is a wall decorated with rows of icons, which divides the altar from the rest of the church. In this case, the iconostasis is very unusual. You see, you can't now fully see it because it is in scaffolding.
Okay.
It is very high, reaches the ceiling, and it is decorated like a triumphal gate.
So
It was under the will of Peter the Great. He wanted it to be another monument to the victory over the Swedes. Usually it is just a blank wall. You come through, see through, and you only see the altar when they open the gate in the middle of this iconostasis is called the Royal Gate. So when they open it, you can see the altar. Other than that, you can't. And it is only open during the service. But here it is also a unique piece made of carved oak. And the pulpit is a very Catholic element. Usually in the Russian Orthodox churches you do not have any pulpits. But here the architect planned it, so they made. You see, and there are the tombs if we return back to Catherine. So there we finished with Catherine the Great. So that in the corner is the tomb of her son, Paul, and his wife. And then Paul had 10 children, and 2 of his sons, one by one, were on the throne. So next to Paul's wife is Alexander the First, the eldest son, but he didn't have children. So when he died, his brother had to take over, and so that is the tomb of the next Tsar, Nicholas the First. Of the Romanovs, living in the U.S., in Greece, in Venice, in Italy, in France, and you see. And this is Empress Anne. And Elizabeth. You see? And the succession is like this. After Peter the First, it was Catherine the First. So afterwards, she left the throne to her little nephew. You see, Ivan the Fourth, Ivan the Sixth. But he was basically 3 months old. And of course, he couldn't keep the throne. And he was put in prison when he wasn't yet a year old, because they made a coup and put Elizabeth on the throne, the daughter of Peter the Great. That little boy grew in prison and was killed in the time of Catherine the Great because someone tried to rescue him, her son. After Paul, it was Alexander the First, his son, another son, Nicholas the First, and then father from son. Nicholas the First, Alexander the Second, Alexander the Third, and Nicholas the Second, the last one.
But you know it very well, yeah.
Yeah, I know it. I can tell you now, and tomorrow we'll make a test.
Like a certificate?
Yeah. Sure. With the stamp of the company.